song called Hope to Carry On. We start playing it. You may want to stand up. We'll see.
Is a part of that. There's a part that you can tear off in there. And so just be sure that you go through and read your bulletin. We have completed a very successful Council on Ministries retreat yesterday at Camp Walter Johnson. So for all of you who participated in that, thank you. It went very, very well. I need to remind everybody about our Wednesday night reservations for the fellowship meal. Our Margaret Ivy is undergoing treatments for lung cancer beginning tomorrow, so Troy from the Women's Club is going to be bringing meals in on Wednesday night. If you want to come, you need to have your reservations in by Monday at 1, and we are going to have to, for this window of time, be really, really strict about that, because if Troy is bringing in meals for 75, that's the number we give him. That's how many meals he's bringing in on Wednesday night from 75. So please make sure that your name is on that list so that you can be counted. Margaret has allowed us all to get really bad habits about that. So, and also, if your name is on the list and you don't come, we're still paying for that meal, whatever Troy brings. That's what we're paying for. So that's just a heads up. The reservations need to be in by Monday at 1. We have a trustees meeting this Tuesday at 6:30. So if you're a part of our trustee committee, please be sure you've got that on your calendar. Chapel communion follows this service, so please be sure that you get across the way for that period of time, that moment of time. Our new member class begins next Sunday, right, Tim?
Yes.
Yes, and it will be
Boy Scout room.
Be in the Boy Scout room. So if you've been visiting with us and would like to find out more about Memorial, more about Methodism and entertain the idea of joining in this fellowship and through membership, we would love to have you take the New York class and find out more about us. We keep the Walker family in our prayers. John Walker service is 2 o'clock this afternoon in the sanctuary. And our Margaret Atkinson died on Saturday morning. So we want to keep George and his family, Carol Ryan, her sister and brother, in our prayers. His service will be next Sunday at 2. And there will be a visitation following. Preceding that service at 1. That visitation from Margaret will precede her service at 1. And I just got a phone call before we came over here from Berta Riley, and her sister has died. Her mental easy in Raleigh. She has been taking care of her for a number of years, driving up and down the highway. So we need to keep all of those folks in our prayers. And Brian has an announcement.
Real quick, I hate to be exclusive here, but I want to talk to the guys for just a second. If you're a guy, let me hear you say, yeah. Yeah. If you're a guy, let me hear you say, yeah. Yeah. That's good for Super Bowl Sunday. All right, if you're a guy and you like bacon, let me hear you say, yeah. Yeah. Or if you like breakfast, just say, yeah. Yeah. If you love Jesus, let me hear you say, yeah. Yeah. See, I didn't say just the guys there. What's up? All right. On Tuesday mornings, the reason I'm talking about guys and breakfast and Jesus is because on Tuesday mornings we're going to start meeting at the Sunrise Diner. Last week we met. There's 3 of us, and we're going to branch out. We're inviting all the men to come join us for a men's prayer breakfast. Again, we're going to meet at 7:30 at the Sunrise Diner, and hope that you can be there. I know I'll be there, and hopefully a few other folks will be there. We're going to get together. We're going to talk about God. We're going to pray a little bit and just check in with each other. I guess it's out of the floor. I might as well sing, right?
Let's make the song celebration.
Yeah. I gotta sing the song differently now. Holiness is what I long for. Holiness is what I need. Holiness is what you want from me.
Amen. Take this opportunity to turn those around you, welcome one another with the peace of Christ. Search out people that you don't know very well.
Good morning. How are you today? Well, I'm so happy to see all of you here this morning. It's exciting to have you with us. Now, tell me, how many of you know the game rock, paper, scissors? Okay, some of you do and some of you don't, so I'm going to explain it to you. The game rock, paper, scissors is about who is the stronger one, right? And so you have a rock, and you have scissors, and you have paper. And so, rock, you pick your hand 1, 2, and then on the third time you either do rock, paper, or scissors, right? Okay. So, when you do that, rock, what does it do? It crushes the scissors, right? And scissors cuts the paper, and the paper covers the rock, right? And usually if 2 or 3 are playing, somebody's going to have the higher hand, right? Either somebody's going to have paper and cover rock, or somebody's going to have the rock and crush the scissors. And so whoever wins, they get to hit the other person's hand, right? When you do that, yeah, you get to hit their hand, kind of like a hot potato. So it's about who is the stronger, right? Okay, so let's do it one time. You ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, I got rock. What you guys got? We got rocks. We got scissors. I'm crushing the scissors. Did anybody have paper? No papers. Okay. So if you had paper? Oh, so she beat me and it beat the rocks. All right. Very good. So see, you had the stronger hand in that game, right? You beat all of us. And who had scissors? Oh, the scissors beat the paper, didn't they? Uh-huh. Yep, so they can cut the paper. So you can see how that can be a tricky game, right? Well, like I said, it's about who has the stronger hand when they play that game. Now, sometimes kids like to act like they're stronger than other kids, right? And sometimes they can do things to make them feel strong, like they may be mean to some of your friends, or maybe to you, to act like they're stronger. Maybe they pick on you. Maybe they say mean things to you so that they feel like they're stronger, right? So what else, Kira? Yeah, someone's been mean to you before. I think all of us have experienced that at some time, right? Yeah, and sometimes we call that bullying, don't we? Yeah. Well, in the Bible, there's a story about Jesus, and it shows how strong Jesus is. Now, one day, he it was a Sabbath day, the day he went to the synagogue to worship, and he went in to read the prayers and to teach. And while he was there, he saw this man, and this man had an evil spirit inside of him. And as Jesus went to him, the guy with the evil spirit said, "Get away from me. What are you doing? You want to mess with me?" He said, "Leave me alone. I know who you are. You are the Holy One of God." And then Jesus said, "Be quiet." And then he told that evil spirit to come out of that man. And the evil spirit did it, just like that. And everybody who was there was amazed, was like, "Who is this man Jesus? Because he can command over evil spirits and they obey him. He is so strong." But you know what? The good thing is, Jesus doesn't use his strength to hurt people, does he? He uses it to help people because he came here to love us and to help us. And so we know that we can use our strength to do the same thing, right? The things that we're good at, we can show how we love people with our strength. So let's remember that this week, okay? So let's have a prayer, and we are going to go to Children's Church, and we're going to learn about how Jesus is always our friend, okay? Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we thank you so very much for your Son Jesus, who came to show us his love and to help us to be strong like him, to use our strength to help others. And it's in his holy name that we pray. Amen. Thank you guys for coming. Let's go to Children's Church.
We're going to enter into a time of prayer. We're going to begin by reading a beautiful song of praise. And then we're going to have moments of silent prayer. And during that time, I invite you to call out the name of people like we did last week. We did this last week. But so many folks had so many people that they wanted us to be in prayer for. We kind of ran over each other. So this time, when we hear a name, I invite you as the body to just respond with "Hear our prayer." And that way we can truly listen to the names that are called out. I invite you to hear this word, this song of praise, Psalm 111. Praise the Lord. I give thanks to the Lord with my whole heart in the company of the upright in the congregation. Great are the works of the Lord, studied by all who delight in them. Full of honor and majesty is his work, and his righteousness endures forever. He has gained renown by his wonderful deeds. The Lord is gracious and merciful. He provides food for those who fear him. He is ever mindful of his covenant. He has shown his people the power of his works and given them the heritage of the nations. The works of his hands are faithful and just. All his precepts are trustworthy. They are established forever and ever to be performed with faithfulness and uprightness. He sent redemption to his people. He has commanded his covenant forever. Holy and awesome is his name. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. All those who practice it have a good understanding. His praise endures forever. This is the word of God for the people of God. Praise be to God. Pray with me. Andrea and Tom Walker, hear our prayer.
Libby,
Hear our prayer.
Betty Carnes,
Hear our prayer.
Jane,
Hear our prayer.
Nancy Hunter,
Hear our prayer.
David,
Hear our prayer.
Theo Harrison,
Hear our prayer.
Andrew Regal,
Hear our prayer.
Tanya,
Hear our prayers. Hear our prayers.
Ann,
Hear our prayers.
Richard,
Hear our prayers. Hear our prayers. In these moments of silence, Lord, we acknowledge your presence with us. You are closer to us than the air that we breathe. We ask that through the power of your Spirit, you transform our hearts, that we might clearly reflect the image of your Son. We pray this prayer as we pray all of our prayers in his name. And now we pray the prayer that he taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Good morning. Good morning. Is my mic on? All right. Good to be here on this winter morning. We'll begin with the prayer of illumination as we open up our minds and hearts to hear the scripture. Lord, open our hearts and minds by the power of your Holy Spirit, that as the scriptures are read and your word is proclaimed, we may hear with your Lord what you say to us today. Let us stand for the gospel reading. The gospel according to St. Mark. They went out of Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, he entered the synagogue and taught. They were astounded at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority, not as scribes. Just then there was in the synagogue a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried out, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Be silent and come out again." The unclean spirit, convulsing him, crying with a loud voice, came out of him. They were all amazed, and they kept on asking one another, "What is this new teaching with authority?" He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him. And at once his fame began to spread around the region of Galilee. Word of God, the word of God, the people of God. Praise be to God. Amen. You may be seated. Is it not on? What about my mic? Oh, no, it wasn't on. That was just my booming voice. I got trained from Brian Russell. Yeah, bacon. They were all amazed and kept asking one another, "What is this new teaching with authority?" Let us pray. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable unto you, O Lord, our rock and redeemer. Amen. I wanted to take a note of that word authority. They were all amazed at teaching with authority. It's a telling word choice to describe what the crowd witnessed in Jesus. What if the Gospel of Mark had described him as one with power? It could be easily argued that in this story, Jesus exhibits power. "Silence," Jesus said, speaking harshly to the demon. The unclean spirit shook him, screamed, and then it came out. That would be power. So do we have in this scene with Jesus power or authority? The words are not interchangeable as we sometimes use them. Not interchangeable in the Bible. As a matter of fact, the description of power would have set Jesus on an entirely different course than the one he takes. And I'd like to define those two words, power and authority, first by examples. According to Forbes magazine, the most powerful person in 2014 was Vladimir Putin. Even according to them, more powerful than our president, the leader of the free world, because he doesn't have to wrangle with the Congress. I thought it telling how the article began with this sentence: No one would call Vladimir Putin as a good guy. True enough. He's taken possession of Crimea, waged a proxy war with Ukraine, and most certainly has supplied the surface-to-air missile that downed a civilian jet fighter and hundreds died. But goodness is not relevant in measuring power. It's not relevant. He's the undisputed and unaccountable head of a vast, rich nation, and able to move armies and bend global markets, which he's done in some form. Now, fourth on the list of the most powerful in the world was Pope Francis, just under the leader of China, which kind of surprised me. Though I would question whether we would aptly describe his influence as power. Power. Might it be better to say Pope Francis has authority? I mean, look at him. He walks around in sandals. He still communicates via the old fax machine. He doesn't do email. Did you know that? He communicates with paper fax, with the old kind of machine, the box. And he drives around Rome in a 1984 Renault. I wouldn't even drive around in a 1984 Renault, and I drive around in a lot of jobs. That Renault has logged 190,000, well, almost 200,000. Actually, I think I'm probably at this point it's over 200,000. So our image of these two world leaders is very different. Vladimir is either at the podium lecturing an audience or riding bareback on a whistler with a bare chest. I suppose that bare chest could describe the bear or Putin. Pick your choice. Probably something we shouldn't show in church, but there we are. The image we have of Pope Francis is with a broad smile, and this is an image I once wrote about and have in my mind often is of a blessing and touching a man who has a grotesque disease on his scalp. I noticed that Time magazine also named Malala Yousafzai as one of the most influential people of 2014. She's not yet 18 at this date. Recall as a child, she defied the Taliban in Pakistan when she demanded an education for herself and other girls. When she addressed the United Nations, the Assembly stood with applause, the youngest to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. She has a lot of authority right now, and yet she holds no political office, no royal blood, and she doesn't have any army. She doesn't even actually have a high school education yet. She holds very little power, but she has authority right now. The difference may be this. Power is acquired from without, sometimes legitimately and sometimes illegitimately, not so. Power is given by the state, by popular vote, or is seized by manipulation or some form of violence. Whereas authority is always engendered from within. That seems to be what the crowd is taking notice of between Jesus and the scribes. Jesus conveys a presence of authority. He has taught them as one who has authority, nothing like they have seen. The authority of the scribes comes by virtue of position, and their authority comes by gained knowledge and study, which is not necessarily a bad thing, it's just really not the same. And not necessarily an authority that would pierce a hard heart and change the world. So while power is acquired in some way, perhaps by some certification or gained and taken, authority is always gained by loss of some sort. Often by the loss of giving up power in some way. So the Pope moves out of the Vatican Palace into a hotel room and now has more authority than a Pope has had in quite some time. Malala Yousafzai nearly gives up her young life in pursuit of education for her and other girls in the village, and she has retained this authority. St. Paul wrote this about Jesus, a passage many of us are familiar with. Though he was in the form of God, did not regard equality with God as something to be exploited. Describes authority here. By emptying himself, takes the form of a slave, being born in human likeness. And being found in human form, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even death on a cross. Became obedient unto death, humbled himself. Authority comes by loss in some way. Once again, how shall I describe authority? Well, no, I mean power. How shall I describe power? There are varying degrees of power, of course. And most of us have some measure of power in this life. Whether they be at home, in a marriage, parenting, or at work, among colleagues, or in the community. And power is not necessarily a bad thing. Some power is important in order to maintain a civil society. If I'm behind the wheel driving my car, speeding down the highway, faster than I should be driving, and I hear the siren of a state trooper behind me, and I see the lights flashing in my rear view mirror, I pull over. I don't want to pull over. I pull over because if I don't, well, I'm going to get something worse than a fine. And he's got other friends that have uniforms just like him that'll come after me. And all of those cars are a lot faster than my 4-cylinder Toyota Corolla. And he's got the court system behind him. And most of all, he's got a gun. And he knows how to use it. So I pull over and stop because he has the power. And it's not a bad power. I mean, he needs that power to keep the highway safe. But he has the power. The state gives it to him. My mother, on the other hand, had authority, at least over me. But she had very little power in the world. She worked as a waitress most evenings, weekday evenings and weekends, and her life was spent taking orders from others. You know, do you want tea, sweet or unsweet, that kind of thing, and then waiting on them. By the time I was 14, I was twice her size. But if she told me to do something, I did it. Mostly because I knew that she had made 1,000 sacrifices for me, and it kind of just pierced my heart. It was authority born of love, and I gave it to her. Even in those rebellious teenage years that we all have had, I gave it to her. If she had told me to pack my bags and climb Mount Washington in New Hampshire, not far from her home, I would have argued with her, but eventually I would have climbed Mount Washington. I would have done it. She had authority. Authority and power. Now, it's still very early in the year. We are in this season called Epiphany, the manifestation of Jesus, when Jesus shows who he is, what he's about. And in the season of Epiphany, we read all these stories about the first miracle, the first exorcism that we read, the demon casting out, the first time he goes into the synagogue. He makes himself known. In that first chapter of Mark, what Mark is doing is, in all these stories in this chapter, laying out the theme for this gospel. And he's laying out what's going to be taking place throughout the life of Jesus according to the Gospel of Mark. That's what he's doing here. Which is why he makes a statement about authority. He's saying, take notice, he has authority. This authority will be followed through to the cross. He accomplishes work by loss. In his authority, like the crowd have not yet seen. And that's what's taking place in the synagogue in this first chapter of Mark. Jesus is teaching. And while he's teaching, there's this disruption. A man with an unclean spirit, I think actually better translated, is a man with an evil spirit screams. And there's a kind of battle that takes place between the two. It's as if Jesus has suddenly entered enemy territory. What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? It sounds like the Spirit is getting ready to wage war. Call out the army, build an arsenal. parade down the streets with tanks and missiles. The Spirit is getting ready to go into battle. I know who you are. You are the Holy One of God. It's a mysterious scene, you know, if you're as old as I am, it's something like you would have seen in the 1970s in a particular movie, right? The point is Jesus has come to defeat the powers of the world by authority. Principalities and powers, that's a biblical phrase that we don't hear much in our daily conversation these days. But these are the forces that are so often out of line with God's good intentions for creation. And we are as familiar with these forces as the first century Jew in ancient Palestine. Our baptism liturgy says they are described as evil, injustice, and oppression in whatever forms. And we can list these powers, these principalities that get out of line in broad terms. Poverty, addiction, disease, violence in all its forms, whether that be at home or in the streets or among nations. These forces are the sins that get the better of us. Better of us privately, in our families, and in communities, such as greed and envy, lust and anger, and so on. They're the things that we struggle with day in and day out, in our hearts and minds, in those battles we have within society. Jesus will overcome this with authority. For example, when we're speaking of these forces, we're describing the pervasive evil that is human trafficking, and to our fortune, a group of women in the church brought to our attention with an insert in this morning's bulletin. The insert actually showed up on my desk this past week, and the church secretary said to me, so some women want to put this in the bulletin. I say to her, which women? She says to me, well, Prentice Weldon and Betty Rowe wanted in there. Oh, I say. Evidently, human rights groups have shown that during the Super Bowl and other large professional events, they are occasions for high incidences of human trafficking, a terrible scar in our society. And of course, there's always a pushback when we're facing that ugly truth. That's the way of the principalities. And I felt a twitch of that myself when I see this, it's going to go in the bulletin. It's the Super Bowl, after all, when we're enjoying the game and the commercials and the food, and we're enjoying the food and more food. I mean, this really is the real Father's Day in the United States, not the one in June. Do we really need to have this insert now? I'm going somewhere with this. But when the United Methodist women show up with their gospel and their book list of justice readings and their causes and their insert on the bulletin, am I actually going to say no to Betty Rowe? Does people know who Betty Rowe is around here? I mean, I won't say her age, but she's an older woman who is like a sister of the church, you know, she's like what can I describe our Methodism? And she'll kill me for this, but she's like a Methodist nun. She has authority. I do want to get into the kingdom of heaven. I am not saying no to Betty Rowe. And I'm not saying no to a lot of those Methodist women. I cleared the way, right? They have authority.
They outnumber us.
They outnumber the men that show up on Tuesday mornings by far. United Methodist Women President, isn't that true?
Very true.
Yes. I mean, Betty is she's gained that authority. I'm not going to say no to Betty. Now, does Betty have power? Well, maybe Charles thinks so, but I mean, Jesus will overcome the sins of the world by authority. And there will be pushback. And there will be battles. But eventually the evil will succumb. It always does. That is the point of the resurrection. I keep this quote in my mind every now and then from Mahatma Gandhi. When I despair, he wrote, I remember that all through history the way of truth and love has always won. There have been tyrants for a time, they have seemed inevitable, but in the end, they always fall away. Now, did Mahatma Gandhi have any power? No.
The role of church is always the way of authority. What are we willing to lose in order to gain the respect of the community? What are we willing to offer in order to earn the privilege of changing hearts? What are we willing to suffer at times for the sake of the victory of Jesus Christ? In closing, this marks the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights March from Selma to Montgomery, and what led to the Voting Rights Act just a few months later. 50 years ago, the nation witnessed as marchers tried to cross that bridge just outside Selma, Alabama, only to have their way barred by sheriff and his deputies. You might recall, if you're old enough, the marchers were warned to turn back. The marchers responded, "We've come too far to turn back now." The sheriff warned a second time. The marchers went down on their knees in prayer. After a countdown of 10, the sheriff and his deputies charged in among the demonstrators and began to beat them with billy clubs and unleashed dogs that attacked in Maine. From the outside, to so many, well, to some, I shouldn't say to so many, to some, it looked like the cause had been lost. It looked like the sheriff had won. He had the power. The people had lost what looked like so much dignity and pride. It was a heartbreaking and horrible sight. But for thousands and thousands of people across the nation, the protesters had now gained a new authority. Even deputies in Selma and later the sheriff had a changed heart. People in my family had a changed heart. The tide of the nation finally began to turn. And shortly after the Voting Rights Act was passed. The church is called always to authority, never to power. And how that comes about is different in every generation and in every community. How we're called to authority doesn't necessarily look anything like this, but we're still called that same authority. Most often it's not so public, not so wide, but sometimes it is, in some generations. But in every generation, there's always loss in some way, always an emptying, always a witness of sacrifice done in joy. What is this? A new teaching, one with authority. Amen. As we sat on Wonderful Wednesdays, we call them Wonderful Wednesdays because that's what churches seem to call them. They are wonderful. At the fellowship hall, it was full. There was a large crowd there. It was a wonderful experience. We actually supplement some of those meals so that families can come and not have to bust their wallet. And I think that's really worthwhile. I think that's really worthwhile. If you haven't been to a Wednesday dinner, come on, come sit with us. They're great experiences. It really is a reason to put money in the offering plate, to have that connection in the middle of the week. Thanks be to God. The ushers may come forward. Lord, bless these gifts you are to receive, that your word would be proclaimed, and your good news announced. Amen.
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 You'll even be want to know more about the church, please join us. We go out into the world. We are called to grow in faith, build relationships, and serve all people. Let us say amen.
Amen.